It's playoff football time, baby. Stadium Drive has reached week 11. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Storied Rivals Podcast Network. Whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, Will Ford here. Really appreciate you joining us not only through the regular season, but now to playoff football. And round one of the playoffs, we're covering Division 5, Region 19, a matchup between two teams that we cover. We've got the West Muskingum Tornadoes and the Union Local Jets. West Muskingum, MVL Small School Division champions for the first time since 2005, 9-1 regular season record. They defeated the reigning small school division champion New Lexington Panthers during the season. And Rashid Sesay, unbelievable regular season, one for the record books, broke all sorts of records, but the MVL total touchdown record for a single season, 39 touchdowns. I'll repeat that again, 39 touchdowns. And he broke Drew Cannon's record from back in 2001. He played for the New Lexington Panthers. He had 36 touchdowns. So Rashid Sesay having an incredible season and no signs of slowing down. And this West Muskingum offense gets him the ball in tons of different ways. He lines up as a receiver, a running back. He throws it sometimes, but he also plays extremely well defensively and has some interceptions returned for a touchdown. For touchdowns this season as well. West M is just on a roll, and they have been ever since Nate Brownrigg took over this program a handful of years ago. And the Tornadoes, 9-1 small school division champions in the Muskingum Valley League. When you look at Union Local, they're 6-4. They've lost 2 out of their last 3 coming into this, but they lost to 2 really good teams. St. Clairsville is 8-2, and Barnesville back-to-back 10-0 seasons, undefeated regular seasons. The Shamrocks, a really, really good football team, lots of players, well coached. And for Union Local, the thing that's really interesting about them is that their quarterback, who's a sophomore, he started week 1 because Isaiah Tomalonis was injured preseason, and so he wasn't ready for week 1. Tomalonis came back in, played up through the final drive of the fourth quarter in week 6 against Weir. Broke his collarbone. Colby Carpenter steps in, leads a game-winning drive, just hops in there, poised, composed, leads a game-winning drive. They defeat Weir 20-13, and now he's been playing the rest of this regular season and playing really well. And it just seems like a kid that's not too big. Like the moment's not too big for him. He's poised, composed, like I said. And he just doesn't seem to get rattled. And, I mean, Union Local is a younger team in general. Their tailback, running back Brody Perzanowski, is only a freshman, and he's eclipsed 1,000 yards rushing this year. He's really, really good. And then their best wide receiver, at least in my opinion, Dre Saunders, last week against Barnesville, 10 catches, $140 and a touchdown. And he's been doing Colby Carpenter and him have had a connection over the back half of this regular season. So this is a really exciting matchup. I wonder what Union Local does defensively for Rashid Sesay, because obviously you're not going to stop him. He's going to get his. But do you put 2 guys on him? Do 2 guys just follow him around wherever he goes? If he's lined up at receiver, do you have someone covering him man-to-man, obviously, but then a safety over top? When he's lined up at running back, do you have 2 spies on him, and basically and West Ham's got a ton of other good players too. I mean, let's not deny that, but are you just going to force someone else to beat you other than Rashid Sesay? I think it's really interesting how head coach Bernie Thompson approaches this. We have interviews with Coach Thompson and Coach Brownrigg to play for you here in a few minutes, but Division 5, Region 19 playoffs, and the winner of this game, obviously, anything can happen once you get to the playoffs, but likely would play the 4 seed Harvest Prep. Now, West Ham's a 5 seed, and Union Local is a 12 seed. But we could potentially see a matchup in Week 12, the second round of the playoffs, where either Union Local or West Ham plays against the number 4 seed Harvest Prep. So that would be very interesting. And I do think this is going to be a really competitive game, just because I think Union Local, even though they've lost 2 out of their last 3 to close the regular season, they played some really tough teams that I think West End would have some problems with. I mean, Barnesville is really, really good. But let's talk to both of these coaches here, and we'll start with West Muskingum, Nate Brownrigg, the host of this Division V playoff game. Brownrigg talks about the incredible season that his football team's had, but also the season that Rashid Sesay has had, and the joy to just coach a player like him, and then preparing for this Union Local team that he has never played against and never had to prep for in seasons prior. So this is a new experience for him. He talks about that excitement of prepping for an entirely new team that you would never see in the regular season. And then we'll follow it up with head coach Bernie Thompson, who talks about how he's going to try to get in the way of Rashid Sesay and limit the amount of opportunities that he has to create big plays. And also talks about the play of his young quarterback, Colby Carpenter, and his offense that has dealt with some adversity, but played really well down the stretch. And even though they lost 2 out of their last 3, their offense just looks really, really good. So Nate Brownrigg, then we'll follow it up with Bernie Thompson. But thanks so much for joining us here on the Storied Rivals Podcast Network. We're going to be live at West Muskingum High School on Friday around 5:45, 6 o'clock to hype up this game and also talk about some other big playoff games that we'll be at around the area, in the Muskingum County area, some games that some MVL schools that are involved in, and then a trip up to some Columbus area schools as well. So we'll cover all the action for you, but thanks so much for joining us. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and also follow us on Facebook and Instagram, because we'll be live Friday night. So thanks so much for joining us. Here is head coach Nate Brownrigg and then Bernie Thompson on the Storied Rivals Podcast Network. All right, we're here with head coach Nate Brownrigg of the West Muskingum Tornadoes ahead of Week 11, the first round of the playoffs, taking on the Union Local Jets, who are 6-4 this season. Coach, I really appreciate your time joining our show today. But let's talk about your season, because you won the MVL Small School Division Championship, first league title since 2005, 9-1 regular season. You beat the reigning small school champs, the New Lexington Panthers, during the season. You beat your alma mater, the Philo Electrics, a season full of tons of emotion, tons of achievements. But describe the energy, the excitement of you and your guys having a 9-1 season, winning the league title, and the excitement of the community as well as you head into Week 11 and the first round of the playoffs.
It's been awesome, man. I did a couple interviews after the game on Friday to talk about what it feels like, and to be honest, it's not something that I've really let myself enjoy just yet. I think the players are kind of into that as well. That we still have some business to do, and kind of when things wrap up, we'll sit down and really reflect on the accomplishments. But there's no doubt it's been an awesome year. There's a lot of kind of validation into what we talked about. Going all the way back to the summer and even into the spring. It's not really my style to talk about championships right out of the gate. Now we want to, we've hopefully put ourselves in a position to kind of, have a standard of being competitive and competing, at a high level. But the championship being the end game goal is not necessarily always something we talk about right from the get-go. And that's something that we did this year. The kids really bought into that, really worked for that. This senior class, being our first group of seniors since they came in as freshmen when we got here to start building the program, and they've really worked hard for the last 4 years, took lumps for a couple years, and really put us in position to be where we are now. It's a special group.
Now, Rashid Sesay had just about as unbelievable a year as anyone we've seen in this league in a really long time. 39 total touchdowns, a new MVL record, which was set back in 2001 by Drew Cannon, who played for New Lex. 36 touchdowns scored by him. I mean, what's it been like to coach a player like Rashid Sesay? Because, he just does just about everything for you. He runs between the tackles. You can line him up out wide at wide receiver. He even throws a couple passes for you sometimes, throws some touchdowns. Like, what's it like to coach a player of his caliber? Because we haven't really seen someone like him in this league in a really long time.
Yeah, on top of all that, obviously as a coach, as a play caller, having an athlete like that can be, used in multiple spots is very fun. It's fun to game plan, to figure out different ways to get him involved, to get him the football. But on top of all that, he's a great person. He's a great young man, very, very mature for his age. He and I have conversations about, a lot of serious stuff all the time, for a long time. He's very unselfish. I think when you listen to him speak, he speaks very highly of his teammates, especially the offensive linemen. And, so he understands that, as good as he is, he would not be in the position he's in without those guys in front of him, and really all the guys around him as well. It's been great to have other guys step up to, take some pressure off of him a little bit. Other guys that can make plays like Jake and Carter and Connor and some of those other guys that we get involved. So he deserves everything he's gotten this year. As far as like the numbers go, they're incredible numbers, and that's not necessarily by. It's not like we sat out this season, him himself or us as coaches were like, hey, let's see if we can get Rashid to break some records this year. But it just kind of played out that way. And again, he deserves all of it. Looking back, and I've been around the league for a long time. I actually played against Drew Cannon. He was a little bit younger than me, but was a great player, also a great person. Politician down in Perry County now, has helped out on the New Lex staff, a few times over the years. And so, but numbers wise, I don't know if there has been, anyone like him in the entire history of the league, and really to do it on both sides of the ball, not just offensively. Obviously, he's a very dynamic offensive player, but I thought it was really fitting that last Friday, the touchdown that broke the league record, his 37th was a pick six, and I think this kind of shows his versatility, his overall athleticism, and just what kind of a really good football player he is.
Now, this Week 11 matchup, you've got the Union local Jets, 6-4 regular season. They've got a quarterback starting, though, who's a sophomore, who he played the first game of the year because their current quarterback was injured. Then he sat the bench, and then their starting quarterback got injured again in Week 6 and broke his collarbone, and he comes right off the bench and leads a game-winning drive against Weir, and they win 20-13. It just seems like the moment is never too big for this kid, Colby Carpenter. I mean, describe the challenge of preparing for a young quarterback who just seems to be so poised. The moment's not too big, and he's playing like a senior instead of a sophomore.
Yeah, it's one of the most exciting things about playoff football for me is coming up against new opponents and preparing for teams that you're not really used to. I've never played Union local before. We've never played Union local before, so it's been really cool to sit down and really break down a new team. I don't know their coaching staff at all either, but you can tell right away that really all of them, not just the young guy and the quarterback, but their tailback is a freshman. So they have some young guys playing big spots and big moments, and you can tell that it must be a reflection. To me, that's a reflection of their coaching staff having confidence in them, kind of having that even keel approach as well, because you don't see them getting too high or too low in the films that we have. So it's definitely a challenge, not just because he's a young guy and is experiencing some success early, but just because it's all brand new. Their players are brand new, their schemes are brand new, their coaches are brand new. So that adds an element to the playoffs that I personally really enjoy, and I think our kids are starting to enjoy as well.
Well, Coach, we're looking forward to watching the game this Friday. Your team has had an incredible season, 9-1, league champs for the first time since 2005. Rashid Sesay breaking all sorts of records and breaking the MVL all total touchdown record. Just an unbelievable season for you and your guys. But I really appreciate you joining our show today. Best of luck this Friday against the Jets, but also make another deep playoff run, man. And best of luck the rest of the way. And thanks so much for the time today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And our focus right now is just one day at a time, 1 week at a time, and enjoying this time together.
All right, we're here with head coach Bernie Thompson of the Union local Jets ahead of Week 11. It's playoff time, man, so it's super exciting. First of all, congrats on making it to the dance, because obviously that's the goal every year for every team. Obviously, you want to win every game, but kind of by any means necessary, however you get to the playoffs, you get to the playoffs. So first of all, congrats on that, and thanks so much for joining our show today.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me, Will.
So 6-4 regular season, but 2 of the last 3 games that you played this year, you lost to an 8-2 St. Clairsville team, and then 10-0 Barnesville, 2 really, really good teams, and kind of a measuring stick for your program. But how do you think those 2 games against those really tough opponents prepped you for Week 11 and this playoff run that you're about to embark on?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, first and foremost, I think I'd put our schedule up with anybody. We have a tough schedule, week in and week out. I mean, no easy games. Our first loss against Harrison Central, I think they ended up 8-2. Beaver Local is a tough team, and then obviously ending with a gauntlet, St. C. Belair and our rivals. It's not easy. So, and we knew that, and something that we struggled with the past few years was just finishing in the second half of the year. And really, at the second half, we had a winning schedule for the first time in many years. So I think it's just a compliment to our coaches, to our kids for battling and just being mentally and physically ready for that gauntlet those last 3 games. But St. Clairsville, they're just they're an unbelievable program. So I had to go in there, learned a lot of lessons during that game, and then Week 10 against our rivals, man. They're 10-0 team, second year in a row they went 10-0. I mean, like they're tough. They're legit, well coached, ton of players. So I'm proud of how our kids handled this year. To finish 6-4 with our type of schedule was not easy. So really, we've been battle tested. We've played in a lot of close games this year. So I think that's really going to be beneficial heading into playoff round 1.
Another storyline to your team this year, and kind of adds to, I guess, the adversity that you face. Like, you lost your quarterback, Isaiah Tomalonis, in the middle of the season, like week 5 or 6. And then your sophomore quarterback, Colby Carpenter, steps in against Weir and leads a game-winning drive, just steps onto the field, makes it look easy, and wins the game for your team. And now he's been playing ever since. But how do you evaluate just the way that he stepped in and just competed for you through the second half of the regular season, set you up in a really good position, and then obviously now you're in the playoffs? But how do you evaluate just the way that he's stepped in as such a young kid to play in some big moments, win you football games, and just play really well?
Sure. Yeah. Colby's a tough kid. He's a great kid. Really, he stepped in week 1 for us. Isaiah got hurt, prior to week 1. So we came into, the first game of the season with the sophomore quarterback, really didn't know much about Colby. So kind of rolled the dice with him. He came out, had a tremendous second half, led us to victory week 1. So he gained a ton of respect in the locker room that week. And then Isaiah came back, and Isaiah is a phenomenal athlete, led us to some huge wins. And then unfortunately went out that game, broke his collarbone. It was devastating for us to see our leader go out. And then Colby stepped right in, that fourth quarter, that last drive of the game, led us to a touchdown, just calm, cool, collected. And then again, right there, we knew he was very capable. And then for him as a sophomore to step in and have to play these last 3 games against those 3 opponents was not an easy task. But he's handled himself very, very well. He's one of those kids. He's mature beyond his age. He's not rattled, which I'm, very rare to see a 15-year-old, 16-year-old kid step in that type of environment and not be rattled. And he really wasn't. So we have a ton of confidence in him, heading into this playoff game, with him leading us. We're not worried at all. I think we're kind of one of those teams where, we're young enough. What you don't know, and we don't care. And we're going to go and we're going to sling it around with Colby, and, he's going to lead us. And, and then, really we're young in the backfield, because if you look to your right, our running back, he's a freshman too. So, but just proud of the way that Colby's handled himself, not only, playing, in the games, but just how he's prepared, the mental aspect of everything, and just being the leader that he is.
Now, your Week 11 test is West Muskingum. They're the MVL small school division champions, and I want to know how you're going to prepare for a guy like Rashid Sesay, who scored 39 touchdowns this year and broke the MVL record, and it's a record that stood for over 20 years. You're obviously not going to stop him. I mean, he does what he does, but how do you game plan for a guy that just has such game-breaking speed? They line him up at receiver, running back. He even throws the ball occasionally too. So he's really a guy that you have to account for in so many different ways. How do you go about prepping for what West Muskingum does offensively, getting him the football in whatever ways that they do, just to give your team a chance to compete with a high-scoring offense like West Muskingum has?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I knew nothing about this young man until I watched him on film, and then I knew really fast, like, he's the real deal. Just a phenomenal athlete. Runs the ball extremely well. Excuse me, hard nosed, elite speed, right? And they line him up in the slot. They'll put him backside. He'll throw a touchdown. He's going to be really tough to defend. I think we have to do a good job of always, recognizing where is he, right? Because I think sometimes he'll take you to the ball. So just understanding where he's at, understanding what they're trying to do. I mean, we try to break down film this weekend. He's a phenomenal athlete. And like you said, he's going to get his. I mean, you don't stop a player like that. You can only try to limit them. So I think what we're going to try to do is limit him the best we can. The quarterback's a tremendous athlete as well. He likes to use his legs, and he can sling it around too. They got some athletes on the outside. So we're going to have our hands full. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, it's a playoff game. They're going to be good. They're playing at home, and they have a phenomenal athlete on their side. So we're just going to have to do our best of, not giving them anything, right? We're going to do our best to probably kick away from him, right? To gang tackle, to not turn the ball over. All those little things add up in a big game like this. So we'll just try to do our part, and then, whatever happens, happens.
Well, Coach, we're really looking forward to watching the game this Friday. Best of luck in Week 11. Go get a win, make a deep playoff run, and you guys, sophomore quarterback, you guys seem to be pretty dangerous with that sophomore quarterback leading the way, and I'm really excited to see what you guys do in the playoffs. But thanks so much for your time today.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. The Jets are excited to be in the playoffs. And what I told my boys is when I'm filling out a March Madness bracket, 12-5, I'm always circling that because, somebody's going down. So why not us? So we're excited just to be a part of it. And thanks for having me, Will.